The Xbox One X was once the most powerful console to ever exist back in 2017. That was a couple of years ago and a lot has changed since then. But regardless, the Xbox One X is still able to pack a punch even as of today. Without any further ado, this is why the Xbox One X continues to be a compelling choice as your next gaming console. Let's get right into it. Even if this console is built on the Xbox One architecture, it is safe to say that this console is much beefier than the OG Xbox One and the One S. In fact, it even leaps ahead of the Xbox Series S in terms of GPU performance, which really defines the amount of power this console is capable of. Surely, this console is massive in size due to the powerhouse it once was. Well, it's not. It's actually smaller than the Xbox One S, but it does weigh quite a bit at 3.81 kilograms, compared to the One S, 2.9 kilograms. But I actually like the heavier weight. It makes the console feel more premium. Oh, and the sleek design, I just love it. Also, do you remember the big and chunky power supply that the OG Xbox One had? Luckily that is now integrated in both the One S and the X. And each when we talk about the internals, the One X really shines. This console packs a whole terabyte, although it's on hard drive which is slower than the SSDs in the Series S and X. And 1 terabyte? Pfft, no, I get 780 gigabytes of usable space. Anyways, the loading times on the One X can be long, but you can actually swap out the hard drive to an SSD or get an external SSD to improve the responsiveness and the loading times on the console. Now it won't be as fast as the series consoles, but the swap from an hard drive is definitely noticeable. It has 12 GB of GDDR5 memory, 6 teraflops of graphical power, which is theoretically equivalent to somewhere around the GTX 1070. I said theoretically because it's limited to the slower Jaguar CPU. Now the CPU is a step up from the One and the One S with a 40% clock speed increase at 2.3 GHz, but then again it's built on an older architecture. Nevertheless, this console can run surprisingly quiet. As long as you place the One X where heat doesn't get trapped, it'll give you a solid performance and you can certainly rely on it. All of this and the console can output 4K at 60 FPS on a few titles, otherwise you will be playing on 4K at 30 FPS or 1080p at 60 FPS, depending on what game you're playing. Speaking of 4K, Microsoft was going to make 100% sure that everyone knew this beefy machine was all about performance, and with that came native 4K. This was a really big deal at the time, as I'll show in this quick 4K montage, or whatever you wanna call it. Enjoy! True 4K had finally arrived in an Xbox console. The textures is crispier, as you can see in this quick comparison between the Xbox One S and X. The colors on the One S almost looks washed out. Now if we take a closer look, we can clearly see that the text is more readable and the trees doesn't look as pixelated on the One X. In addition to that, the viewing distance is longer, the shadows, well, they are shadows, and the environment in general looks stunning. All in all, this was a tremendous increase in GPU performance, and it's in the GPU performance where the 4K in the Xbox One X beats the max resolution of 1440p in the Series S, meaning that many games in general look better than the Series S on less FPS in a couple of games. So I believe that we can agree on one thing: it's still a good console. But what about the games? All of the spec numbers and design are nothing if a true gamer doesn't like the games. Luckily, regardless if you're playing on an Xbox One or Series console, you'll have access to almost the same game libraries. The One X is the best console to get if you mostly play Xbox One titles. This is due to the optimization on the Xbox One X, which is a cut above the Series S and X. Even on newer demanding games such as Forza Horizon 5, The Xbox One X can output a remarkable 4K 30 FPS, which looks gorgeous. Or, for example in Forza Motorsport 7, it can go all the way up to 60 FPS while running on native 4K. And this should give you a perspective just how good the One X still can be. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see a full list of the Xbox One X enhanced games. Also, you even have access to Xbox Game Pass, which basically is a Netflix subscription but with games instead of movies and series for only $10 a month. On the One X, well, the one in general, you can play a vast amount of 360 titles and a handful amount of original Xbox titles directly on the Xbox One. Whether you have a disc or want to play digital, the One X got you covered on reliable backwards compatibility. Well, at least for the most part. What the actual fuck? Now let's briefly go over the ports, which is worth mentioning as they differ quite a bit from the series ports. The One X has one USB 3.0 port at the front as well as two more on the back, a power port, an HDMI in and out port, IR out port, optical audio output and a network port. And if we take a look at the series consoles, we can see that it's missing the HDMI in port and the IR port. So if you find them useful, well, there you go. You have it on the One X. And the One S. And the OG Xbox One. But what about the controller? You can use any Xbox One or Series controller on the One X, so this shouldn't be an issue. I bought this special edition controller on sale for $50 and you know, it has the share button and the textured grip, like the Series consoles have. Then again, it's fully functional and it works seamlessly. A popular question on my other console videos was that where I bought my consoles. So the real question is, of course, where can I get one? With the introduction of the Series S and X, the Xbox One models aren't being manufactured anymore. And lucky for you, there are plenty of used Xbox One X's listed for $150 to $200 on several used markets. Which is a great deal if the console is in good condition and if it comes with the original controller and cables. Okay, so who should get one? If you're coming from the One or even the One S, like I do, then the One X is a solid upgrade with all of its extra horsepower under the hood. The upgrade isn't necessary by any means, of course, and this is due to the One and One S still being fully supported by Microsoft. They are slower than the One X, of course, but they're still being supported. Or maybe you're planning to buy an Xbox to someone that have never owned an Xbox before. Then this console would be a great first Xbox due to the price, performance, game library, features, reliability, small and sleek design and so on. But while you're at it, it can actually be worth considering the Series S because that console isn't far off in terms of price. The Series S will provide you with newer architecture, with a blazing fast SSD and up to 120 FPS. However, it lacks a disk drive, native 4K, some ports, and it has less storage at 512GB. See the Series S as a successor to the One S Digital Edition. Speaking of the One S, I typically find it for $90 to $120, which excludes buying the One S in my opinion due to the significant upgrade the One X provides. In short, the One X is without any doubt still worth it. Get that one if you regularly play Xbox One games, use discs, and of course if you want improved graphics over the regular One and One S. Otherwise, if you only play digital games and want a general speaking faster console, go with the Series S. And if you're willing to spend your hard-earned cash for a Series X, then you'll end up with the best of both worlds. But your wallet will beg for mercy. Despite that, the Xbox One X is still a really good bang for the buck. Oh, and for you PlayStation fanboys, I gotcha, don't worry. Here's a video here on the left to see if the PS4 is still worth it. Some other cool video about some other cool console is here on the right. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them below, or if you have the Xbox One X, let me know how it holds up. So, thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and also remember to press that ding dong thing and I will ding dong your door with an Xbox.